Hey, folks, it is that time again. Welcome to the show. I'm Democratic strategist and Lincoln Square host Max Burns, and it is April 3rd, which means if you have made it this far, it's the end of the week. Now, you may be wondering where my lovely co host Sam Osterhut is. The quick answer is he's been assumed into the AI that people still seem to think I am. Please calm down with the comments. You're driving me crazy. Now, in the meantime, I am lucky to have an incredible friend, colleague, man about town from DC here with us, the great journalist Brian Karem, the author of the Reporter's Notebook on Substack, the Just Ask the Question podcast, a columnist at Salon, and so many other things. Brian, how you feeling on this nice, easy end of the week?
Well, I feel like I picked the wrong week to stop sniffing glue, but otherwise I feel pretty good. How about you, Max? How you feeling, brother?
I'm amazed at just how much broke in the last 10 minutes before we went on, and how much of this show is no longer going to happen because of Donald Trump. Now, if you'd be so kind, I'd love to have you join me breaking down the five biggest stories of the week here. And we're going to start with this story has shifted so many times today. Uh, this breaking news that just came out, Iran apparently has downed an F-15 fighter jet, the first jet downed by Iran of the war. This has not yet been officially confirmed by the Pentagon, but the military has launched a search and rescue operation to find the pilot who safely ejected, which means there is someone running around Iran, and the hunt is now on to find him. Iran has offered a reward if anybody finds him and captures him. The US obviously taking this as a major escalation. Donald Trump on Twitter today backtracking from his speech just a couple of days ago, where he seemed to imply the war would be ending, now saying we may need to stay for a little bit more time. Now, here was Donald Trump on Wednesday talking about just how great this war is going.
No longer. This is a true investment in your children and your grandchildren's future. The whole world is watching, and they can't leave the power, strength, and brilliance. They just can't believe what they're seeing. They leave it to your imagination, but they can't believe what they're seeing. The brilliance of the United States military.
The brilliance, Brian. How do you feel about this investment in your grandchildren's future?
Why are we there? And first of all, he declared that we had air dominance. I've heard
Yep.
of air superiority and but air dominance. Well, then how the hell did an F-15 get shot down? And of course, he's going to use this as an excuse. We already have 10,000 or more troops poised to go on the ground. Donald Trump
Yeah.
just 3 or 4 days ago said we were 2 weeks ahead of the game and we would soon be leaving. He didn't give a timetable then. Caroline Leavitt, the presidential PEP secretary, came out and said it was horrible for us to even ask those questions, and we're anti-American for asking them. I still don't know why we're in this war. He decided that suddenly they were going to get a nuclear weapon when they haven't been able to enrich uranium enough to create a nuclear weapon in the last 60 years. He claimed he obliterated, decimated, destroyed their chance to do that 6 months ago. Then, a month ago, decided we had to go to war because they were 2 weeks away from getting a nuclear weapon. We know this is all lies to back up Benjamin Netanyahu's efforts from Israel. Netanyahu showed up at the White House, we were told, for some strategic reason, like 2 or 3 days before he began bombing them. So now I guess we know what they were talking about. And he has continued to say that this is over with, done. Now I'm waiting. What's the over under before he blames the Democrats for this, denies that this ever happened, said that, this is like 1984. Don't believe
Yep.
what everybody else is reporting. Believe what we tell you. No one is. And so we know now, if you've got a betting pool going on, I would wonder I'd venture to ask what the over under is when we put boots on the ground. I would say sooner rather than later. And this is one of those never ending wars that he promised he wouldn't get into. He has lied to the American people continuously. There are people like Marjorie Taylor Greene who used to be on his side, who no longer are. You've got Tom Massey pushing against him. There's a growing number of Republicans. Max, the thing is, privately, for the last year, I can't tell you how brave these Republicans are privately about how they feel about Donald Trump. He sucks. We can't stand him. We got to get rid of him. And then publicly, they kiss the ring. I think
Yeah.
it's finally going to come down to the fact that if they want to get reelected, they've got to start recognizing the fact that Donald Trump isn't going to do it for them. And so there will be more mass defections. But at the end of the day, this is going to be the reason and the rallying cry for putting boots on the ground.
And this is wildly unpopular as well. We just put up the chart here. About 2/3 of Americans disapprove of the war. That doesn't seem to bother the White House at all. They're planning to spend as if this war is going to happen and go on for quite a while. We just saw yesterday the Pentagon asking for a $1.5 trillion defense budget. That would be the greatest in history. But at the same time, Donald Trump saying in an Easter speech that we can't afford Medicare and Medicaid because we're just too busy dropping bombs. I think we have that clip too.
We can't take care of daycare. We're a big country. We have 50 states. We have all these other people. We're fighting wars. We can't take care of daycare. You got to let a state take care of daycare, and they should pay for it too. They should pay. They have to raise their taxes, but they should pay.
Yeah.
We just can't take care of anybody. We're too busy bombing Iran. What do you think, Brian?
Well, like George Carlin said, if this is something we do really well, and if you got some brown people, we can definitely bomb you. We love bombing brown people. The lone exception was Germany, and as Carlin said, that's because they tried to cut in on our action. They said they wanted to rule the world, and we said, "Oh no, that's our job." So we had to bomb them. The fact of the matter is, Donald Trump said we're the largest country. We're a large country. We can't afford it. Well, smaller countries with less money can. There are plenty of countries in Europe who have better health care, better education, better home care, daycare, better stay-at-home privileges, and, of course, better care for the elderly. But Donald Trump wants to spend $1.5 trillion on that, on bombing people. And I disagree a little bit with the statement that he doesn't care about this. He does. The fact is, he does not like being unpopular. So he's throwing people under the bus. The latest is Pam Bondi. And Pete Hegseth, little Pete Petey in the Petey Gazette, he might be next. And then after that, you got to look at little Stephen Miller. Miller is probably, those three are the ones that are really causing him the greatest heat right now. And with the bombing, shooting down of the F-15 today, you see that Hegseth has already fired the Army Chief of Staff. That's trying to throw somebody else under the bus before he gets thrown under the bus.
Yep.
I don't know if they're going to be able to keep from throwing Pete Hegseth and further cannibalizing his own cabinet. And remember what Donald Trump said, Max? He said he loves hanging around stupid people because he's
done a great job.
Yeah, you look at his cabinet and go, a bigger indictment for those morons I've never seen. But that's just me.
Now, we're going to stay on this and give you the latest as we get more information about this jet in Iran. But we want to move on here. As Brian mentioned, Donald Trump loves to surround himself with idiots. And we've had quite a few big news stories this week. The next big story we have, what can we say, folks, about Kristi Noem? Or I guess, more to the point, what can we say about Brian Noem, Kristi Noem's husband, who was outed by the Daily Mail wearing giant fake breasts and latex skin suits with sex workers? And Kristi Noem says she had no idea. I'm wondering how you put that through the washing machine and don't notice. But I got a question for you, Brian. Who wore it better, Brian Noem or Divine from Pink Flamingos?
Divine, definitely, and much better looking. And first of all, I want to say anybody who spells the name Brian, B-R-Y-O-N, you're daft to begin with. You got a problem, pal. I don't think it's B-R-I-A-N, and if you want to put a Y in there, if you're Welsh, I'll accept that. But I just like how the nipples were in different places on that. It's so bad as to be. I mean, you look at it and go, how awful. Donald Trump probably looked at it and said, beautiful woman, love him, great guy. But I don't know where to go with that one, brother.
I'll tell you, to me, the strangest thing about this is that he went the full outfit. He's got the latex hot pants,
and no
the
wig.
Fake breast, but no wig. Yeah. That was his line. He said, no, that would be weird if I put the wig on. And it's fun, to laugh at this because Kristi Noem has been such a big proponent of, policing trans children and the threats of all of this. But it poses a real risk too. Intelligence officials say that this creates the risk of potential blackmail for someone like Kristi Noem.
Well,
And it
not
certainly seems
anymore.
like this helped drive her out of government in part.
Well, it probably did. The only thing that would have been worse is if her husband had been posing in drag with a puppy on his lap. Then that would have really been something, because she's such a damn good dog killer. But the questioning aside, this is more indication of how they didn't vet people, before they brought him into the administration. But even more to the
Yeah.
point, it's just another example of how unserious this administration is. When little Pete Hegseth can come out to the Pentagon and ban reporters because they don't ask the questions that he wants to answer or give the information that he deems appropriate, and calls us unserious, that to me is an indication of how unserious he is, and by extension, the entire administration. The only real issue with him, and look, if you want to wear pink flamingos and run around and call yourself a tutu, I don't care, as long as you
Yeah.
do your job right. This is an indication that people weren't doing their job right, and that's the only thing and it wasn't that he wasn't doing his job right or she wasn't doing her job right. It's an indication that those who vetted him and her did not do their job right. And that's the thing you have to worry about when you have people like Tulsi Gabbard, Pete Hegseth, Pam Bondi, Stephen Miller, and a host of others who obviously are not qualified for their position. That's the only real serious public debate issue about whether he's got a nipple up and a nipple down and doesn't wear a wig. I mean, honestly, I could not possibly care less, but I just want her to do the job. And it does show her hypocrisy and it shows that this administration did not vet her well enough to avoid that. That's the issue.
Yeah. And the response to this has been, in a way, sort of hilarious and sad to me. You had Nancy Mace saying, "How dare the media cover this? This is a personal issue. We're making a big deal out of it." The same Nancy Mace, by the way, who posted 200 times on Twitter about gay kids and trans kids and men using women's bathrooms. But this one is a personal issue that we shouldn't talk about.
Hey, Max, don't do as I do. Do as I say. Don't you get it? That's 1984. And they do that. Every indictment of someone else is an indictment of themselves. It's what they've done. It's what they do. And they get upset when you call them on their hypocrisy. It's not, that's, if people keep that straight, fine, report on it. Don't report on it. Again, not the biggest issue in the world, but if you're going to report on it, point out their hypocrisy, which you just did. That's exactly why these people, and I say these people, the people in office, because people, what do you mean by these people? I mean, the people in office. That's by which we should hold them accountable to the same standards they hold the rest of us.
Yeah, I mean, we wish Brian Noem the best. I guess he's got a great counselor in George Santos. Another great, who, by the way, George Santos at least got the nipples straight on his outfit,
Yes.
which is a level of attention to detail I've come to respect here.
And by God, if I can't make a joke about that, I'm telling you, tough room. How you doing?
So we will, before we start bleeding out the nose from this, let's move on to the next big story here. This tied into the Iran crisis. I don't know if you've looked, but gas prices are through the roof. It now costs over $145 to fill up the tank of an F-150. So I guess when Donald Trump was talking about his golden age, he meant that it would cost you a literal gold bar to fill up your tank. Now, this isn't just affecting people who drive. This is also food prices, transportation of goods. We're now seeing Amazon is instituting a 3.5% surcharge on all goods because of the rising cost of fuel. Brian, this is just in time for the travel season. I mean, this couldn't come at a worse time for Donald Trump.
Well, there's a lot of things that his timing is always impeccably bad. And take a look at, to the point, at his State of the Union address, the longest on record, he touted how the Dow industrial averages were up and the stock market was above 50,000. Today, as we speak, it sits at 46,000. So less than what, 6 weeks later, he is he's lost fourth, and it's regained some. It was as low as 45,000 because of his lies and his continuing obfuscation about what's going on in the Middle East. And to the point about gas prices, what did he say yesterday? He's going to leave it up to the allies to open up the Strait of Hormuz, which he mispronounced in his speech. And
Yep.
less than a few days after he said it would be easy to open up, that he's decimated Iran. They have no way to stop us, but we need our help. We need help from our allies. He got mad at the allies for not helping out. You should have followed us in the war. You never help us out. A reminder for everyone, after 9/11, it was our NATO allies who helped us out immensely. Donald Trump, they're not following. It's a defensive alliance, not meant to go in. We start a war, they don't follow us in. He's been criticized by our allies, by the Pope. And then he says in the Strait of Hormuz yesterday, we're going to leave it up to the allies to be, have some courage to take that. We don't need the oil there. We don't need it. We have, by the way, buy oil from us. Meanwhile, look at the price of crude and look at the price of gas. Again,
Yep.
Donald Trump is lying. Facts show that he is a liar. When you take a look at gas prices, when you take a look at heating costs, and, like some joke, I can't even buy helium to get a funny voice anymore. Then all of that is indicative of the fact that Donald Trump cannot tell you the truth, and things are far worse than he says. I mean, he said that,
Yep.
they couldn't stop us in the Strait of Hormuz because we So why did we need the help from our allies? What are they throwing rocks at us from the side of the, from the shore? There's just absolutely nothing about this that makes any sense except that price, which tells you what reality is.
Yeah. And now, like, to your point, there's been no president in modern history who's pinned so much of the success of his presidency on the stock market price and gas prices, and encouraging people to judge him on that. As you noted, helium prices now going up. I didn't know this, but the Middle East, and Qatar especially, produces most of the world's helium. And that's not just really putting a downer on kids' birthday parties. That's how we make semiconductors and pieces for advanced chips. So that puts the entire AI boom into question. It puts the entire tech bubble that's going right now in the markets into question. And there's no good solution. Qatar saying it could take months to get back to this production level. I mean, they have no plan for this, do they?
No, and when you continue to tell us that Iran has no offensive capabilities, they're shooting our planes out of the air, they're bombing gas and oil fields in the Middle East, there were missiles falling on Tel Aviv, and we don't get that news here. That's what's discouraging, is that we get that filtered and it comes later and not as accurate as you can get it from the BBC, from even Al Jazeera, from Axios, who's doing some of it, from CNN overseas. All you get are the criticisms from the Trump government about how we're the fake news, the false news. By the way, your prices are going up, and it has nothing to do with the war. Don't look at the man behind the curtain. It's that the Wizard of Oz crap that's just bothersome on levels that, anyone with common sense. I know some people are always going to buy into what Donald Trump says, and God bless you. I don't hold ill will towards you. I don't have hate within me, but I have a disdain for those who ignore vetted factual information. And the vetted factual information available to us is hard to find. You should make an effort to get it. And once you get it, you will see things a little more clearer than Donald Trump is telling us. And you're right. The problem with they had no plan for it. The Joint Chiefs told him not to do it. He did it anyway to deflect from Epstein. Pretty soon, we're going to have to deal with Epstein to deflect from the bad news in the Middle East.
Pretty soon, we're not going to have any Joint Chiefs. I mean, Pete Hegseth just firing the chief of staff for the Army yesterday. Yeah. So it shows you about where we are. Now, I do want to get your thoughts as a journalist on Capitol Hill. Are Republicans that are talking to you privately worried about the gas price situation? Are they seeing this realistically like regular people are, or are they denying it like Trump?
I'll tell you the filter that you need to send that bit of information through is those in the House who are up for re-election, the entire House. Those people are scared to death that they're not going to be voted back in office. The Republicans see a huge debacle coming in the middle, in the midterm elections, which is why Donald Trump is pushing so hard for voter suppression. Call it whatever he may. The people in, the members of ICE who are now in our airports, I've been told, is just a dry run for what they want to do outside of precincts this coming November. So that's their effort to keep us from voting, which
Yep.
I say to everyone, get on the phone banks, volunteer, not just to vote. You need not just to vote. You need to volunteer to help. You need to work the precincts. You need to be on phone banks, Republicans and Democrats both. I don't
Yep.
want to see the Democrats snatch defeat out of the jaws of victory this fall. I want them to find legitimate contenders in every race. You may not agree with progressives, but at least agree that we've got to follow the Constitution. Get those
Yeah.
people in office that can get. And I further think that the people who still support Donald Trump publicly should be, once this election is over, and if the Democrats manage to wrestle control of the House and the Senate, there will be investigations into the legitimate criminal activities of those who have supported Donald Trump. And
And that's a great
wholeheartedly
segue,
support.
actually, into the next big story we have. Speaking of criminal investigations and incompetent officials, Pam Bondi, now apparently Pam Gondi, forgive me for that, after she ran out of excuses for being terrible at her job as Attorney General, Trump firing her on Wednesday. This is huge news. She's still scheduled to go before Congress on April 14th to testify
boy.
in a subpoena case. And now she's not going to have Trump backing her up. Brian, what do you make of all this? What has the feeling been like on the Hill?
Well, they've been after Pam Bondi for a while, and I'll remind everyone who Pam Bondi was and is. She was investigating in Florida and potentially prosecuting Donald Trump till he donated $25,000 to her election campaign, at which point in time she stopped. Now, $25,000 is pretty cheap to buy a politician, if you ask me. There are those who hold out for a lot more. But I will also remind everyone that according to census statistics, I believe it is, or maybe it's IRS statistics, the average annual income for a DoorDash driver is about $25K. So that means that Pam Bondi has never been anything more than Donald Trump's DoorDash driver. She's the one that delivers. And so he can find another delivery boy, and he has. Pam Bondi is screwed, blued, and tattooed, folks, and she probably will end up facing prosecution, and rightly so, for the things that she's done. But she's just one of many and she's the second cabinet level hire to be gone. And then there's Dan Oingo Boingo over at the FBI, and a couple others and Bovino. He likes to hire and fire a lot of people that Bovinos and Bojingos, and so But
and at the end, what makes me laugh is that what got Bondi screwed isn't that she was terrible at her job in service of the people. It's that she was terrible at protecting Trump. She failed to secure indictments against any of his political enemies. She fumbled the Epstein files and created that crisis. Apparently, when she was begging in the Oval Office to keep her job, Trump was not having any of it and told her, "This is done. We're going to announce it Friday," and then announced it a day early just to screw with her a little bit. I mean, this is so typical Trump.
Well, like I said, I heard good sources. Now they don't let us in the press corps up in upper press anymore, and that's because they said, well, we're looking at classified material up there, which is a lie. You should not have classified material out on the desks in the upper press office. And God knows, in the 40 years I was coming and going there, I never did see classified material laying on anyone's desk. But the fact is, you are extremely close to the Oval Office, and you can hear when the president is yelling. I and many other reporters who covered him in the first administration I heard him screaming at Rance Priebus about the temperature in the Oval, wanting him to turn down the thermostat or turn up the thermostat. So we heard him yell and go off the rails. They got rid of us this time because he's going off the rails more and more often. But some people very close to Trump who were there told me he was yelling and continued to yell. I think it was at Pam Bondi. And of course, the one that they told me about was "get him out." Now, who that was that he wanted to get out, we don't know, but Reportedly, it was Hegseth and Stephen Miller who were seen a few minutes later leaving the Oval. So there is the problem with Donald Trump losing his grip on reality that some say he never had, and that Pam Bondi is the latest victim of that, because she didn't, as you said, she did not secure any indictments against his enemies. And that's what Donald Trump is all about, not justice. It's about Donald Trump. She was unable to do that. She was unable to protect her boss from the Epstein files. And the stuff that has already come out is damaging on levels that would hobble, cripple, and ensure an indictment of any other president, not as well as impeachment and conviction on impeachment, but not with Donald. But Donald's still feeling this heat. He wants to get rid of her. And so that's why her replacement came in and said there will be no prosecution of anybody associated with the Epstein files. That lets you know there's no justice left in the United States.
We wish Pam Bondi all the success in her life in the farm upstate, where at Leavenworth.
Good and orange.
She'll definitely be a fashion statement there. John Welch in the comments saying, also revoke Rick Perry and Jeff Sessions Eagle Scout Awards too. Let's do it. Deserves it. And that, well, we have a few minutes here. I want to get to our last story. This one, a positive one because of everything going on. The Artemis 2 rocket, America going back to the moon. 4 astronauts, including 1 Canadian. We let Canada tag along this time. Blasted off on April 1st. Everything is fine, except that apparently Microsoft Outlook isn't working. Shocker for anyone who's ever used it. And the toilet is broken. So it's going to be a long 10-day trip. But they are going to orbit the moon. They're going to go further out into space, I think, than anyone has ever been before, and then come back. This is a test for a landed human mission next year, they say.
2028.
This is cool. Yeah, 2028 now. This is, even with all the cynicism going on, it is incredibly cool to see a big rocket launched toward the moon again.
I brought tears to my eyes, and it reminded me of, it felt like 1969 all over again. The United States is mired in in a war no one wants. There's a criminal squatting in the White House, and we're on the verge of going back to the moon. To me, it was like 1969, and I liked what they had to say. We're doing it for all of humanity. It echoed Apollo 11's "We came in peace for all mankind." It puts goosebumps on you if you can't imagine. Think of Donald Trump talks about teamwork, and his team isn't working. But you want to see true teamwork in action. The thousands of people at NASA, the thousands of people who work for the contractors, all putting this together. The people on the Artemis mission will be remembered throughout time, and Donald Trump will be ground under it. The fact of the matter is, that's the teamwork. Humanity working together is what gives me the greatest hope, which makes me understand that Donald Trump is a passing fart in the wind tunnel, and that we are actually better than that. We are actually capable of better than that. The world is capable of better than that. Now, there are the cynics among us who say that, this is all because we're in a new space race with China to see who can mine the moon. Okay. But everyone, please remember what we got out of the moon race the first time we did it.
Yeah.
What you and I are doing right now, computers, home computers, everything that we do, our entire life is built upon the electronic revolution that the first moon launch and the first race to the moon gave us. It gives me hope. All we need is some good rock and roll, and I'll feel okay.
Yeah. Rapplejack in the comments says somewhere Newt Gingrich is smiling. Newt Gingrich, of course, loves space because on the moon, there's no law. You can marry as many women as you want. So I will say I feel envious when I heard that these astronauts are now going to go out deeper into space, farther away from Earth than anyone has ever been. They're lucky. I wish. Doesn't that sound great right about now?
Yeah, well, and for everyone to understand, they're not going farther as far as the mission goes, because we have landed on the moon. But the trajectory, because of when they launched, it means they have to go farther to get to the moon. So that the trajectory places them, I think, 5,000 to 10,000 miles deeper into space, farther away from Earth. And that's amazing. And when you look at the miracle, you look at it almost as if it's magic for some of us, because there are people who still believe we live on a flat earth and we never landed on the moon. So to those people, I just want to go back and go, whoop, see, you're a little off there, pal. So see where it takes us. But yeah, like you, it gives me great hope for the future. And right now we need that more than anything, except maybe some good rock and roll music.
And on that happy note, I will say, remember to follow Lincoln Square on YouTube, on Substack, on Twitter at Lincoln Square. You can follow me at TheMaxBurns on Instagram and Twitter. Brian, where can they follow you?
Well, I have a weekly column in Salon. Today's column is called, that's last week's, Bondi's Firing Won't Quell Trump's Discontent is the title of this week's column. It just came out this morning. You can also find me on Substack, Reporter's Notebook. The name of the podcast is called Just Ask the Question, wherever fine podcasts are sold. And you can find me at Just Ask the Question and The Real Brian Karem on YouTube. And of course, the name of the book is called Free the Press. It's in its third printing. And then I will plug this. We are having a private screening for my documentary, The First 100 Days of Trump. The First 100 is what we call it, of this administration, at the Cannes Film Festival, private screening on May 18th. So after that, hopefully you'll see it all over the world.
Amazing.
It was hard to put together because nobody domestically wanted to fund it. We had to find private funding elsewhere, and we'll leave it at that.
Amazing. And I will leave you all with a great tweet. Go look at the NASA Earth account on Twitter, posting a great photo from the Artemis of the Earth looking back. And it is a beautiful picture. Hopefully someday we will find intelligent life down there.
It's humbling.
And that is it. We have survived another week, folks. It is the end of the week. Thanks so much for watching. As always, leave your comments, share around, and we'll be happy to chat with you next week, assuming we're here. Stay safe out there.